welcome back. For those of you that are new, my name is Melissa. So this is part 2 of the questions that I asked you guys, well, not the questions that I asked you, for the questions that you asked me on Instagram. A couple weeks ago, I was sitting waiting for my kids to get out of music, and I thought that it would be fun to just have you guys ask me some questions of things that you were curious about. And so you did, and I did a part 1 already. This is the part 2 to that, and so I have all of these questions to go through with you guys today. I haven't read them yet, and so I'm just going to kind of go through them with you. If there's ones that are inappropriate, I'm just going to totally disregard them. I'm not even going to read it, and then we will just get straight at it. So, For Chirpin Kids 0 says, what was your career before you stayed at home with your kids? So, like I said in my previous video, the part 1, I didn't graduate. I started nursing school, and then I met my husband, and he could do fractions, and so I was like, okay. And so what I did was I worked in doctor's offices. I ran a couple doctor's offices in North Carolina. And then I worked in the OR at the hospitals that my husband was at in a couple different states. And then I did decorating kind of on the side. So I did it for some homes. And then I also did the mother-baby unit at the hospital that we were at right after I had Christian. So that is what I did with that. Solange Pays 4 says, will you make videos on YouTube again? Yes, I will. I answered that in my part 1 as well. I started an Etsy shop. That's what I've been doing for the last 3 months. I've been creating planner printables so that you can just go on, download them, cut them, put them in your planners. And that is kind of what's been occupying a lot of my free time. I don't have a ton of free time, and so when I kind of took that project on, that totally took up any free time that I had to do videos. And so now that that whole kind of startup process is finished, now I have more time to do YouTube videos for you guys. Let's see, Saint Ability. I can't read this because I think it's in Spanish. All I got was ciao, my intentional life, and then it says something after that, and I don't know what it says. I'm so sorry. I apologize, but I do know what ciao means, so ciao. Organized with Andrea says, do you like moving as often as you do? You seem to handle it well. I mean, nobody loves to move, I don't think. I don't know, maybe there are people that love to move, but for me, it's just always kind of been the way that life has been for us with Sam's career, and it's just never really been something that was an option, yes or no. Have I loved everywhere that I've been? Yes-ish. There was one place in there that wasn't my favorite, but I think it is, like, everywhere is what you make it. You know, you always find what you're looking for, and if you're looking for the negative, you're totally going to find it. If you're looking for the positive, you're absolutely going to find that as well. I like moving in that I never become a hoarder. In the beginning, I didn't mind moving really at all, outside of obviously leaving friends and church community and things like that. Once we started having kids, that's when it gets a little bit yuckier. So for us coming to Kansas City from Denver, for Christian at the time, he was going into the 6th grade. And that was super duper hard for him. It hit him a lot harder than it hit the rest of us. And so, you know, when you start involving kiddos and their friendships and their feelings, that's when it gets a little bit yuckier. But again, you just adapt and adjust. And with that, I think your kids also learn to adapt and adjust, and they realize that, look, life is not always this pretty picture that we paint, and we don't always get to stay in our comfort zones. And that's good, because God calls us to not be comfortable. And so with that, I just feel like we have learned to be able to maybe adjust a little bit better than some people when things happen in life, and just go from there. But the thing that I do love about moving is that I get to decorate a new house. We always try to bring all of our furniture with us and utilize the things that we've had in previous homes as much as possible. But like, you get some new paint on the walls and just kind of a new floor plan, and you get to organize things, you know, to how you want them to be. And I don't know, that part is super fun for me. Organized with Andrea also says, have you always been spiritual? I have. So I was born and raised a Seventh-day Adventist. My grandparents were very spiritual. My parents, you know, have always been spiritual. They were raised Seventh-day Adventist as well. And so for me, like, there's never been another way. There's never been any other option than Jesus. And he's always been my friend. I always, you know, I was raised that he was my friend. I was raised to talk to him like a friend. And so for me, that's just, I don't know, there's no other option for me. Organized with Andrea, sorry, my nose is running. Organized with Andrea also says, what's your biggest strength and weakness? Organizing. Biggest strength, biggest weakness. Biggest strength in that I can pretty much organize everything. Biggest weakness, I can very much overanalyze a lot of things as well. I am a total thinker. And so for me, I can think of all of these ways to organize something. But because I am a perfectionist, I never quite do it 100% in my mind, and I can always do it better. So I guess that could be a twofold. Biggest strength and weakness, being able to organize, weakness, being a perfectionist, and having planning almost be to my detriment, if that makes any sense at all. Organized with Andrea also says, have you always been an organized person? Yes, I was always the weirdo child that was organizing and decorating my Barbie house while all of the other kids were playing. While the other kids were playing in preschool, I was the one that was like going around behind them, picking up their messes. Like, total weirdo child. What in the world? I look back at it now and like, it's kind of funny because I see that in Chloe and I am terrified. Like, I pray for her husband every single day. But yeah, it's just always been like, my desk was immaculate. I loved it when the teachers would ask, like, does anybody want to come and help their friends organize their desk? And I was like, for sure. Totally do. Or like the one that would go around and like clean up the classroom when, you know, they got their work done and stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's always been in my blood. My Trapper Keeper was immaculate. But it's always been fun for me. Kennedy Forever says, what is your ideal vacation? To London. I want to go and see the royal family. I want to see everything royal. I feel like they're my people, even though they don't realize it. But that is like ideal for me. I want to see all of the things. Solutions for Simplicity says, what is your biggest fear? That is a hard one. So for me, being a perfectionist, my biggest fear is always not doing enough, or having the day of judgment come and not doing enough with the talents that God gave me because I didn't want to be uncomfortable. That's kind of what I've been dealing a lot with lately. I asked a question on Instagram yesterday. that kind of went along with what makes your kids want to go to church? Like what gets them excited to go to church? I have 11 and a 13-year-old, and they love Jesus and they love church and they love the idea of that. But right now, our church does little kids really, really well. Like babies to like 3rd grade. And then after that, there's kind of like this lull. And so God has just really, really been knocking on my heart's wall lately, like really pushing me to get out of my comfort zone and try to figure out like, how can I build this community for like 11 to college? And what does that look like? And letting me know that, you know, this is probably going to be uncomfortable for you, but it's going to be worth it. And so for me, it's just kind of always wanting to do more and fearing that I'm not doing enough for either this person or this group or my family or all of that. And so I guess probably right now in this moment of life, that's my biggest fear, is that I am going to be held accountable for being too comfortable and not being willing to do the things that maybe God gave me talents to do. All right, so the next one is Madison Hopper YT, I think. Where did you learn to be so frugal? Any tips on living more simply? So I'm totally going to share with my husband that you said that. Sam is very much the finance person of our relationship. And yes, I am frugal. But it's always funny because I'm always like, well, I bought this at this moment because I saved us this amount of money. Or I used a coupon so that I could buy this even though maybe we didn't need it right now. I don't know. It's just kind of funny. We go back and forth with that. But my parents were always just very frugal. You know, they sent me through church school my whole education, and they just always saved. Like, we never bought stuff that we didn't totally need. They never bought things just to keep up with somebody else. They still don't. And so I just kind of always learned to figure out different ways to utilize things that I had, or now in my life, I like to try to figure out ways to do things cheaper than Pottery Barn or places like that, because I'm like, I don't want to pay that kind of, like, that's ridiculous to pay that kind of money when I can literally make the same thing, or at least very similar to the same thing for a fraction of the cost. And so for me, it kind of becomes more of a challenge to save the money than to just go out and buy it. Let's see, CC Baca 22 says, I just subscribed. How many times have you moved? Favorite city to live? So let's see, in 20 years, we have had 18 addresses and we have lived in 8 states. Kansas City, we've actually lived in twice, which is where we currently are right now. So let me go back. Part of that 18 out of 22, or out of 20 years rather, is like renting a house before we buy one, renting a house before we build, you know, that type of thing. So we have had 18 addresses. Favorite city to live. I mean, we love Kansas City. We love that it's kind of this little secret, cool place that people think is super lame, but it's really not. And so for us, when we lived here before, this was always kind of our goal. Like, if we ever get back to Kansas City, please, Lord, help us get back to Kansas City kind of deal. And so we are thrilled to be here. And now that my parents live here, like, that makes it even more amazing because we've never been able to live in the same state, let alone town, as my parents. And so that has been super duper awesome. So I think probably Kansas City would be it for me. From like a scenery standpoint and humidity standpoint, by far Denver. I mean, you know, the fact that there's like no humidity and you can mow the yard in the middle of July and like barely break a sweat is super awesome. But yeah, for me it would be Kansas City, because it's kind of that little hidden secret, even though more and more people are finding out how amazing it is and coming here. I don't know, I still love it. Rencia 25. Congrats on your Etsy shop. Thank you. Rencia 25 also says, are you planning to do new videos on YouTube or not really? So I already kind of answered that in the beginning. Yes, I am, now that I've kind of freed up a little bit of time from when I was kind of kicking off my Etsy channel, or my Etsy store rather. Now I just have more availability to be able to spend my free time doing videos. Tracy 186 says, do you have any siblings? I do. I have a sister that is 4 years younger than me. She is mentally handicapped, and so I've said on a couple of videos before, like, her and my relationship was always very different from like your average or considered normal sister friendship. Like, I always kind of looked at myself as the protector and the caretaker when my parents weren't around, and so I always had a much more motherly view towards her than, like, you know, that sister hangout kind of friendship. Like, we have a friendship, but it's different. And so she actually lives with my parents, which is super awesome, because now she's able to be here close to us and close to my kids. She comes and hangs out with me once or twice during the week, and just kind of, I don't know, we just kind of do stuff around here, and it's super fun to be able to be closer to her now that we're in the same state, same town. They live like 1.5 miles away from us, which is awesome. She can see my kids much more often, which is great. And from a selfish standpoint, like, I didn't have to have that talk between, you know, myself and my sibling about, okay, where's mom and dad gonna move when they retire, or, you know, how are we gonna do this? And so, selfishly speaking, it was awesome that all 3 of them were able to come at the same time. And so now we can all just kind of be here. Sam's parents live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and so we're like 3 hours from them. And so it's just super duper cool that we can all, you know, be very close to family again. And I don't know, I just love it. Okay, let me see how to say this. Val Bartlewood, I think. What are your favorite meals to make for dinner? So we love doing taco salad. We love soup. Sam and I love soup more than our kids, but we make a lot of soup. I love to do stir fry. My kids absolutely love chicken pot pie, which I did a video on that back in the fall, if you want to look that up. What else? Cheese enchiladas. We love those. Just like sweet potatoes and a vegetable. Like, that is kind of, if I'm really, really trying to scurry around and get things done and just want to throw something in the oven and kind of, you know, continue working, I will do like baked sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts, or like cut up squash or something like that. And that is just super easy and filling and healthy. Do you work out a lot to stay so fit? Says MS Rushings 95. No, I don't. I should be working out from a health standpoint. So I don't say this to brag at all. I've just always been a thin person. Like, that's just the body frame that I have. But when I turned like 38, my metabolism totally changed. I can't eat anything that I want to and not have, you know, consequences anymore, which is super painful. I hate it. But I need to be working out just from a healthy standpoint, like a, you know, heart health and muscle health and all of that kind of stuff. It's just, really, really hard for me, and I've said this before, to put myself first. I struggle with that so bad. That kind of goes back to maybe one of my weaknesses. If there is work to be done, I have a really hard time saying no to that and yes to myself. And so I even made some planner sheets for myself to start incorporating into my daily schedule to try and help me with that. Because for me, it's all about checking off a box. And so I figure if I can maybe check off a box for exercising, maybe that will motivate me a little bit more to do that. But yeah, it's hard for me. I do try to watch what I eat. Like I try not to, I love sugar. I absolutely love sugar. And so for me, that is hard. So I really, really try to watch how much of that I eat. We have been vegan for like 4-ish weeks. I said in my other video more about that, like, you know, Chloe and Sam kind of have some sensitivities to different foods. And so we just kind of decided to start doing things vegan and kind of see how our bodies felt with that, you know, how it made us feel and all of that kind of stuff. And I have to say, we've been loving it. It's not as hard as I thought it was going to be, but from like a workout standpoint, I need to do better. All right, the last question from Katrina Dean 93 says, what are some things that you do to unwind at the end of the day that helps you sleep better? I wish I had a whole list of things to tell you that I do, but I don't. I, again, am bad about putting myself first. I literally work up until the point that I go to bed, just like doing and diddling and trying to, you know, finish marking off those boxes and things like that. And so I would love to say that I am good at self-care, but I am just not, and I need to do better. I'm not somebody that likes to take baths. I find like that is super disgusting. like just laying there in like dirty water. Plus I'm extremely ADD and like I can't sit for long periods of time. And so if I take a bath, not only am I sitting in like dirty water, I'm like thinking of all of the things that I could be doing instead of taking a bath. And so it's not even relaxing for me. So I don't do that. I know, I'm a total weirdo. But for me, I just, I have a hard time kind of coming down from things. Okay, that is it. We have made it through all of the questions and answers. Let me actually, I just sent a thing out on Instagram right before I did this, just to make sure people didn't have any last questions. Before I filmed this video. Okay, I have 2 questions. Katrina Dean 93 says, what is your favorite color? My favorite color is white because I can add everything to it and it goes, and it never goes out of style. I feel like it's classic. I feel like it's classy. You can build on it, and so I just love it for that. And then Piper's still trying to get in. Second question is, are you scared about the coronavirus? I'm not scared. I'm concerned about it. I think, so for me, I said in my other video, I see things a little bit differently because Sam works at the hospital. He's not a doctor, but he's on the administrative side. And so I kind of see like, not the fear from the hospital standpoint, but like the very intense intentionality to make sure that everything is prepared and ready for, you know, what changes every day, what hits every day. The numbers are obviously just increasing, and how can we try and eliminate like people who think that they might have it from coming in contact with people who obviously don't, but need to be at the hospital for other things. And so I see that and I hear the numbers and I kind of see what that looks like on that side. But for me, poor Piper. Hold on, let me run and grab her. Okay, this is Piper. She is one of our 2 Cavapoos. Daisy is the other one who I'm sure you guys have seen before. So yeah, I see that side of it, but then the other part that also has me a little bit concerned is just the fact that there are some people who, yes, look, I understand we should all continue living life. Like we shouldn't shut down. God tells us not to live in fear, all of this kind of stuff. But I think you also still have to be responsible with your decisions. And just like everything else in life, the decisions that you make will affect other people one way or another. And so for me, you know, my parents are at the 65 or a little bit older age range. Sam's parents are over 65. And so, you know, knowing that they are a little bit higher risk, or we have friends who have kiddos that kind of has some underlying issues that cause them to have a much weaker immune system. And so for them, I'm concerned because it's not about how much, you know, how many vitamins you take or how many vegetables you eat or, you know, all this kind of stuff. It doesn't matter if you are healthy and whether or not you're going to get it. But what really matters is, you know, if you come in contact with someone who gets it and you get it, and okay, you know, you can fight it, whatever. But the olders in your life might not be able to as well. And so just, you know, for me, it's like, let's try to keep ourselves as socially distanced as we can so that then we don't contaminate grandmas and grandpas and, you know, my aunts and uncles and things like that. And so I just hope that everybody kind of takes responsibility in some form or fashion to try and just keep everybody protected. Like as hard as it is to cancel vacations and parties and things like that, look, we had to cancel our spring break to Mexico, and yeah, it was a big, huge bummer. But in the end, it's worth doing our responsible little tiny part to just kind of help nip this whole thing in the bud, because it is a big deal. You know, even though today there's like 3,010 cases reported in the US, you know, that's not even touching the numbers that are in the other countries, but in the US alone. And people say, oh, well, you know, the US is a really big place and, you know, we've got millions of people here and the number is so small and it's like 1 or 7 or 11% or whatever it is. Well, yeah, that's true, but it's not a small deal to the people who have a family member who is part of that 3,010. And it's not going to be a small deal to me if my parents, you know, one day add to that number that is daily changing. And so for me, I don't know, everybody has a responsibility. And I just hope that everybody takes that seriously, whatever that looks like. And I thank the first responders and, you know, all of the people that work out in the community that aren't able to move their jobs to their house and kind of work from home. And I just thank you. You know, you are doing a service, and I thank you for all of you who are shopping Instacart right now, because you are helping keep people inside and not have to go to grocery stores and things like that. So I could ramble on and on and on, but the bottom line is just be responsible. You know, think before you do. We all have the responsibility to do the next right thing, in whatever that looks like for your circumstance. So friends, until next time, be intentional about the life that you want, guard your time wisely, and sprinkle confetti wherever you go. I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.